What's up, YouTube? This is your girl, Megan from the Hood Astro Queen. Welcome back to my channel, cousins. However, if this is your first time joining me on today, hello. Welcome to my channel. It is here that we use information from celestial bodies to help us gain a better understanding of our favorite celebrities, world events, but most importantly, our damn selves. So do me a solid, hit that subscribe button to join the family, thumbs up this video to grow the channel, and click that notification bell so that way you will be alerted whenever I make a new post. And today we are here to talk about this whole conundrum, this whole entanglement between T.I, Tiny, and like half of the strippers in Atlanta. So apparently, I'm sure you may know, a lot of y'all may know what's up because I got a lot of requests that says to revisit both Tiny and T.I.'s chart. Recently, they were in the news because a woman who goes by the name of Glam University on Instagram, okay, alleged that T.I. held a gun to her head, and then this started an avalanche of accusations because after she came forth with that allegation, there were other women who came forth and basically were saying like, oh, we had sex with T.I and Tiny and they drugged us, or we went and met up with T.I and Tiny and didn't want to have sex and then Tiny beat my ass, or oh, I met up with T.I and Tiny, we had sex with T.I and then Tiny got mad and beat my ass. It was a lot of beating. I said, Tiny. Now, I mean, being from Atlanta myself, none of this surprised me, right? That and in tandem with me already looking at their natal alignments. And it's kind of interesting because I remember the last time I did a reading on T.I and Tiny, I remember stating specifically as in regards to Tiny's chart, she has a lot of aspects of a person who could be capable of something scandalous or maybe even thievery. Okay, and that's kind of where I was going with it at that time. Because this was around the time that whole situation happened with her car. Somebody broke in her car. But she has a lot of aspects that could point towards her being a not so upstanding individual. Put it like that. And, you know, of course, I'm not psychic. Who would have known it would have played out in this manner to this extent. But we're here to talk about it. So basically what I'm going to do today is hop into the natal charts of both T.I and Tiny and see if they have any alignments that could possibly correspond with these allegations. Now, it is important to note up front that this is all alleged, okay, that this is speculative. This is speculative astrology, allegedly, because I ain't got no money for nobody. So there's that. And we can just go ahead and get started. So as it pertains to the initial allegations of T.I putting this gun to this woman's head, okay, I mean, I don't know what else to say outside of I can believe it. T.I, who was born September 25th, 1980 in Atlanta, Georgia, happens to be a Libra sun with his sun at that second degree. Now that's a large part of what makes him a womanizer. Him both being a Libra. Libra literally deals with the opposite sex, but that number 2 energy can deal with women as well. So, you know, there's that. But he also has his moon, which, I mean, you know, we don't know his exact time of birth, but we can still deduce that he is an Aries moon nonetheless. And the thing about Aries moon individuals, specifically men, they tend to be extremely misogynistic. They tend to even have a really large violent streak. And Aries is literally the sign of guns and weaponry. These people can be trigger happy. They can be knife happy. I mean, so the whole concept of him even assaulting a woman, I mean, a lot of Aries moon men do have the capacity to be abusive. Now, obviously, this is not to say every single man with his moon in Aries, but he does have his moon opposing that Mercury in Libra as well. So, you know, he could easily find himself in situations, even as it pertains to verbal disputes and lots of back and forths with women. I can definitely see it. And it getting to a point where he eventually loses his cool. This is also reinforced with his moon forming a quincunx to his Mars at the 18th degree of Scorpio. And like I always say, that number 18 can produce a very unsavory character. Even a person who could be a glutton for punishment, a person who can be just extremely ill-tempered, and who has just really nasty motives. Now, this could also even speak to him being extremely hypersexual and trying to figure out how to, cheat, or him being a chronic cheater. You could also even look at this as him potentially, being involved in some type of illegal activity, maybe even involving women, where he has to learn how to maneuver himself, or, maneuver his actions, because you can look at that quincunx as an aspect that deals with maneuvering, making adjustments and modifications, or just being stuck in like a real sticky situation. So there's so many different places you can go with that, but I definitely see it. So that's not outside of the realm of plausibility. Then he has his moon forming a quincunx to his Uranus at the 22nd degree of Scorpio. Yet another aspect that can deal with him being a freak nasty when it comes to women. But also, him having a hot ass temper and even being unpredictable. These men could also be extremely exploitive and abusive, not just physically abusive, but even psychologically abusive when it comes to women, with very strong feelings of entitlement and a desire for control. So, there's that. Him having his Venus at the 19th degree of Leo, opposing that South Node, an Aquarius South Node, can also deal with him being exploitive of women. But given that the Venus is also squaring his Mars, that's another aspect that can deal with the man fighting a woman wouldn't necessarily be off of the table either. Or you can look at that as him having an insatiable appetite for women, for sex with other women, where it's like he can't help himself. Now, some of the girls also alleged that T.I. gave them an incurable STD, which could also very much be deduced from that Venus square Mars, okay? Especially with Mars at the 18th degree. The number 18 could also point towards hypersexuality, but it could also, especially with the Venus in Leo squaring that Scorpio Mars, can implicate, sexually transmitted infections, especially one that could be received from other women. So, there's so many different places that we can just go with this, but he has a ton of red flags, lots of red flags, so many red flags that I have no doubt in my mind that many, at least the majority, a lot of these allegations could definitely be true for him. To be honest with y'all, I was a little bit more intrigued when it came to Tiny. So we're going to hop on over to her chart in a minute. But before we do that, let's make a quick little detour because we got to talk about Shekinah. Like my girl Kaya would say, Shekinah. She said her name like that because she a little slow. She's not all the way there. Her elevator doesn't go all the way up to the top floor, okay? Shekinah Joe, a.k.a. Tiny's hairdresser. Shekinah, after the allegations were made public, swiftly hopped her ass on live, okay, Instagram Live, and proceeded to what I think she thought she was doing was taking up for T.I. and Tiny, and went on this long rant and was talking about the girl, the original girl who had made the accusations about, T.I. putting the gun to her head, and was saying things like, well, why you don't tell them that you was the one who was recruiting the girls? Why you don't tell them that you was the one who was eating Tiny out? You was eating her. You was sucking her. You was sucking on T.I. You was hunching with him too. And you was going to go get girls. And everybody kind of scratched their heads because we was like, wait a minute. We're asking y'all, if the allegations about y'all dibbling and dabbling and trafficking women, right? Recruiting women in and out and all about were true, and your response was to say that the girl in question was in on it, you're not denying the claims. You're saying that the girl was it. So are you saying that this is true? So you are saying that these things are true to one degree or another. Shekinah. And everybody just kind of collectively was like, oh my God. Like, this girl, she's a little slow, guys. So sure enough, I had to look up her chart. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but it is pretty entertaining. So Shekinah was born May 31st, 1984 in Atlanta, Georgia. And, this will place her sun at the 10th degree of Gemini. She's also a Gemini moon. And although we are not certain on the exact time of her birth, meaning I don't have the exact degree for her moon, she still would be a Gemini moon. And her Chiron is at the 3rd degree of Gemini, which means that Chiron is conjunct that Gemini sun, and give or take, depending on what time she was born, especially if she was born in the earlier hours of the morning, Chiron could also very well be conjunct her moon. And here's the tea. People love talking about how Geminis are so intelligent. And I mean, I guess they can be. However, you do have Geminis who really miss the mark. And these are people with really afflicted Gemini energy. And this is actually a very good example of that. Shekinah having Chiron conjunct her sun and Gemini moon could actually act more as a liability, right? An intellectual liability, because it essentially cancels out all of that intellectual capacity and can just flat out produce a person who can literally be cognitively slow. And this is also reinforced with her also being a Gemini North Node. These are people who in this lifetime can experience a lot of karmic challenges with their, with learning. And I'm not even trying to be funny. Like, they can be a little delayed, a little slow. But also, these are people who lack filters completely. And they can be extraordinarily not only dysfunctional, but just people who are just not quite right in the mind with that Chiron on her sun and moon, where, it's like she could just be a very abnormal human being. These are people who completely lack any type of self-awareness. They can lack all kinds of self-introspection, especially specifically if we're talking about Chiron conjunct Gemini sun and moon. These are people who can just be flat out loudmouths, the ratchetest of the ratchets. Now, I'm not saying all Geminis are ratchet either, but you also have to think about it. If they are ghetto Geminis, especially when they have afflicted Gemini energy, I mean, these are loudmouths. These are people who have no type of couth, no type of restraint. Everything that pops in their brain comes out of their mouth. And they could also lie indiscriminately, lie without a conscience. These are people who will say stuff just to say stuff. And much like Sag, this is how they back themselves into corners where they can put their foot in their mouths and just say stupid shit, or shit that later on they can very well come to regret. Or they could just be loud, strong, and wrong when it comes to certain stuff, which puts me in the mindset of, even when we think back to the protests back over the summer of 2020, when people got really angry over the George Floyd situation and started rioting the Louis Vuitton store. Shekinah hopped on her IG live and was, y'all need to stop it. Why Gucci ain't did nothing to y'all? Why y'all robbing them peoples? It ain't right. And then everybody commenced to roasting and toasting her because you make no sense, ma'am. You're defending corporations over people. They could just be strong and wrong, and they tend to have very strong opinions, things that they feel very strongly about. But once again, a lot of their opinions and their grasp of things can be very much half-baked. And that is actually what can make A lot of Geminis, either dark-sided Geminis or people with afflicted Gemini energy, and I want to make that distinction very clear. This is what can make these people very insufferable, because a lot of times they think they're a lot smarter than what they are. They think they're a lot wittier than what they are. Okay. Traditional standard Gemini energy can be very witty. It can be very sharp. They can be very cunning people. They are, for all intents and purposes, one of the tricksters of the zodiac. But when you have Chiron conjunct your Gemini sun and moon, you can't really shake and bake like your Gemini brethren. You ain't got it all like that. So it leaves holes and gaps and just more room for you to look like a goddamn fool. And that's exactly what she does. She looks like a goddamn fool every time she opens her mouth. Ever since I have seen this lady on my TV screen, I've always said to myself, self, she's a goddamn fool. And here she goes again, living up to her name, living up to that title beautifully. But she can't help it. She can't help it. Chiron conjunct the sun and moon and Gemini. These are people who literally cannot help themselves. This is who they are. They are very dysfunctional, off-kiltered people. This is another reason why they tend to have difficult times establishing relationships. These are people who just won't, they're off. They're very off. And even psychologically, when it comes to like their mental health, they can be extremely unhinged, which is another reason why they tend to have so many difficulties or all of the issues that they do. So, I mean, her energy is very draining. It's very draining. It also doesn't help that she has her Mercury at the 18th degree of Taurus opposing her Mars at the 14th degree of Scorpio, which is another aspect that can make her extremely argumentative, especially when it comes to things that she feels very passionately about. And then she has her Mercury in opposition to Saturn, yet another aspect that can create cognitive delay, cognitive issues. But, I will say that Mars conjunct Saturn in Scorpio can produce a person who can have some criminal ties, who can have some really dark ties, or who could be involved in some seedy business. Then she has her Venus conjunct that Chiron and Gemini, which could deal with her being a woman of many hustles, many trades, but there could be something rather illegitimate about how she gets her money, something funny about her money. I don't know if she is directly involved or has any type of implications in this whole T.I. Tiny situation, nor is that what I'm saying exactly. But just in general, Shekinah, her background may not necessarily be squeaky clean either. Okay, just in terms of her being involved in shit she ain't got no business in. Also, I wanted to mention that Sagittarius South Node could speak volumes in terms of her being a person who is just very preachy, who's a loudmouth, and who can also be very long-winded. So, I mean, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and conclude part 1 here. We are going to make this a 2-part series, okay? So, in the next video, I will be going over Tiny's natal alignments in addition to her synastry with T.I. And then we'll just wrap it up like that. So, y'all drop down in the comment section for now. Let me know what you thought about T.I.'s chart. Like I said, I've actually done like a more thorough reading on him in the past. So feel free to revisit those videos if you care to. And what do you think about Shekinah? Do her placements add up? Do they explain a lot of her behavior or not? And yeah, make sure you practice unconditional self-love so that you can love others. And until the next video, I holla.